What's going on, guys, and welcome to the Zoolab channel. Today I'm going to give you some practical tips on how to get better B-roll footage. Now for us, B-roll shooting is a very major topic for us filmmakers because most of the time we're shooting B-roll. Whether we have done the interview already and we are capturing B-roll to overlay over our A-roll, which is our interview, or we're covering an event and it's more of a run and gun style. Regardless of the type of B-roll shooting you are capturing, I'm gonna give you some tips on how to improve it. Okay, tip number one, this is a given for any type of shoot, regardless of if you're shooting B-roll, whatever, is be prepared. Under that umbrella statement is making sure that you understand the project. Understanding the project is going to give you a better understanding of who to capture, what to capture. If you are shooting an event and you get the details on what the project is, then you'll get a better understanding of what kind of B-roll you can capture or who to focus on. Let's say you're shooting some B-roll after an interview testimonial and the client gives you details on, hey, we're gonna shoot an interview on this person. After the interview, then we'll get more details of what they talked about. And then after getting the interview, then you know and understand what type of B-roll to capture. So being prepared and knowing the project is huge on improving your B-roll. And then also under being prepared is not just knowing the project, but knowing your camera. If you can have a better understanding of where your settings are, how to change your settings, and then for my camera, I set presets, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have a camera that can also set presets. So if you have the ability to switch settings on the fly and make adjustments within a snap and a push of a button, that's gonna be ideal for getting crispy B-roll. Because sometimes, especially when you're shooting events, it's fast. It's run and gun, so things are gonna be moving quickly. Let's say you're going from 24 frames per second to 60 frames and you wanna be able to change that fast. Make sure you know your camera, study it, practice, be it at home, shooting your dog, shooting your wife, even if she doesn't want you to, making sure that you know your camera so that you can be prepared and make those adjustments on the fly really quick with a push of a button like a preset. Okay, so we're talking about being prepared. That's knowing the project, that's knowing your camera. Also under being prepared is knowing the space. If you get a better understanding of the space, then you'll have a better understanding of what kind of lenses to bring, making sure that you have ND filters if you're outside. So if the space is really small and maybe it's really dark, then you're gonna wanna make sure you bring prime lenses to get a lower aperture. If you're outdoors and things are a little bit farther apart, then make sure you have some zoom lenses so you can zoom in and out and be on the fly making adjustments with your lenses. All right, so now let's talk about while you're filming. How can you get better at shooting B-roll while you're filming? Here's a quick couple practical tips. Number one, I would say make sure that you have multiple camera angles. If you can understand focal lengths, and be sure to check out our focal length video we dropped recently on our YouTube channel where we talked about different angles that you can capture. For me, when I'm shooting B-roll, I'm usually looking for some foreground. Maybe it's someone's shoulder, or maybe it's a porta potty and I'm shooting past that. Whatever it is, I'm usually in post looking at my footage and I'm like, man, I should have got more basic shots because I'm always getting foreground in my shots. So making sure that you add foreground elements, anything that can add interest and to kind of carve out the main subject in the frame. So adding foreground to your shots is gonna really elevate your B-roll. Also making sure that you get different camera angles, different focal lengths. So if you have a zoom lens and you have enough available light for a zoom lens, that's gonna be the best case scenario to get quick B-roll, because then you can get a nice wide shot and a nice tight shot so that when you're editing, you have different options. And then making sure that you add motion. This is also another huge practical tip on how to get better B-roll. Instead of just shooting something stationary or straight on, maybe you add a little pan, maybe you add a little parallax to kind of give some life to the shot. And when you do that, that then gives you more options again when you're editing, so that you have maybe a stationary shot or you have that parallax motion shot. Okay guys, last and final practical tip on how to get better B-roll footage. Make sure you edit your own footage. This rule applies to photographers as well. Edit your own photos. I think and I believe this will give you tighter B-roll, better B-roll, because then you have a better understanding and you kind of get a better perspective on when you're filming, because especially if you're editing your own footage instead of passing it off to an editor, then you'll have tighter B-roll, less fluff. The shots from beginning and end will be really tight. There's not gonna be a lot of fluff or shake or walking while the camera's recording the ground or something like that, because you know in post that you wanna have as tight as B-roll as possible, especially when you're turning it around really fast. So editing your own footage is really gonna help you grow in your B-roll shooting so that you can have that better perspective, so that you can see what your B-roll is looking like. If you get into the editing room and you feel like you never have enough shots, then get more focal lengths. Go from tight to wide. If you feel like you have too much shots, then lessen it a little bit, tighten it up a little bit. And I feel like editing your own footage is just that training ground so that you can see what your footage is looking like. It's kind of like when you want to get better at running or get better at a certain lift. For us, we do a lot of jiu-jitsu, so for us to get better at jiu-jitsu, it's best to film yourself so you can see what you're looking like. And so the same thing applies to filmmaking. Edit your own footage so you can exponentially grow your B-roll shooting. And that's it, guys. That's all the tips I have for this video. Be on the lookout for a video in the future where we talk about some of the gear that we recommend for getting better B-roll footage. But this one's really about practical tips, things that you can apply today in your B-roll shooting, making sure that you're prepared for the shoot, knowing the space, knowing your camera, and knowing the project is gonna go a long way in giving you better B-roll footage. Also, while you're shooting, making sure that you have plenty of differentiating camera angles so that when you're editing, which kind of links together with editing your own footage, when you're editing, you have enough coverage to make a good recap or highlight video, whatever you're making. Also, while you're shooting, adding a little parallax or some motion to your shots, maybe a little walking forward shot or maybe a little pan is gonna go a long way also in improving your B-roll footage. And then again, the last practical tip was editing your own footage so that you can get that heightened perspective on what your footage is looking like. You can tighten up the B-roll and get that much more efficient while you're shooting. I appreciate you guys a ton for watching this video. Don't forget, guys, to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate all the love and support you guys have been showing us on the channel, and we hope to see you guys in the next one.